Thanks for coming on, Grue, and I'm sorry about the craziness that started.
Oh, no worries. Thank you. Appreciate your time, Rocco.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. So like the first thing I'm going to start out asking, basically, you have a brand new film, a horror thriller, and what inspired you to want to write and make the film?
Um, I graduated from college in the middle 90s and I moved out to a town in Colorado, Telluride, Colorado, where I got into skiing, ice climbing, rock climbing, climbing mountains and getting into this sort of stuff. So I had a lot of personal experience with this. And while I thoroughly enjoy movies like Cliffhanger and Vertical Limits, they
Yeah.
don't they don't portray climbing, very well or authentically. So it's always been in my back of my mind to do a film that does justice to rock climbing or mountaineering. So I watched the great documentary Free Solo with Alex Honnold, and I saw a review of it later where someone called it the best horror movie they'd ever seen, and that just sort of sent a light bulb off, like, oh, geez, people are kind of really afraid of heights, and maybe if we did a horror, thriller on the side of a big wall rock climb, that's setting would naturally increase the tension or increase the anxiety in, a horror thriller kind of thing. And so we just kind of took that ball and ran with it.
Awesome, awesome. And when you were you were writing the film and making the film, were there any like I mean, besides the ones you mentioned just now, were there any other like horror films or thriller films that you went back and watched?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I made most of the crew watch The Thing again.
Oh yes.
Because my elevator pitch for this has always been Free Solo times The Thing, and I love The Thing. I think it's one of the best horror movies ever made. Certainly at the time in 1981 or whenever it came out, it was ahead of its time as far as contained horror.
Definitely,
Also ahead of its
definitely.
time with the soundtrack. The soundtrack was not well received along with the movie when it first came out. Now it's considered to be one of the classics of the classics, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, The Thing was definitely a huge inspiration for me, especially having some sort of evil entity, alien, what have you, kind of bounce around in people's heads and deriving some sort of psychological horror thriller from the fact that people don't know who's been infected or possessed. So, you know,
Exactly.
was a little bit harder in this film because I think The Thing derives a lot of that tension because they're in such close quarters with each other, right? They're
Yeah.
stuck in an Antarctica base in Antarctica. When you're separated on a big rock wall, it becomes a little bit less, when you're not right next to somebody. So we tried the best we could to get that vibe going. But yeah, definitely The Thing was a huge influence on me in my filmmaking and certainly this film.
Oh man, that's awesome. I love that movie.
Oh, it's great. I love John Carpenter movies. I mean, I even like
Yeah.
what's the Ghosts of Mars, where he let
Yeah,
Pantera
another good one.
light a picture, which is amazing. But yeah.
And I love like in horrors, thriller films, like I love the music, the score, and how did you know the sound that you wanted for this film? Like who did you get for the score?
James Iha, who is the guitarist and founding member of the Smashing Pumpkins, did
Oh,
this for this film. And when talking with the music supervisor when we were planning this stuff out, it was kind of like it's rock climbing, so maybe we should have rock music as far as our licensed music goes. So that's why it's kind of heavy a little bit on rock music to go with the rock climbing. But, talking with James, who got really interested in the film because he is a huge The Thing fan, and he
nice.
even came to his first meeting with this Thing t-shirt that he had on. And just basically, the vibe we wanted to create it was apprehension, tension, anxiety without being too over the top, with also a little touch of sci-fi. And I think that's exactly what he delivered.
Oh yeah, definitely for sure. And how did you find the cast for the film? Like the cast for this film is absolutely amazing, and how did that all come about?
Yeah, I'm very, very happy with how the cast turned out. Obviously, we have a lot of talented actors in the film. We've got some bigger actors who signed on, which is nice to see familiar faces in there. But certainly, when casting this film, it took a little different approach than you would normally would when you're casting. We
Hmm.
looked for the people portraying rock climbers. We looked for people who had rock climbing backgrounds in their personal life.
Oh,
So it's a lot easier to train a rock climber to act a little bit than to take an actor and teach them to be a world-class rock climber, right? At
sure.
the budget level, I just can't send people to 2 month rock climbing camp like something like that. So we definitely look for people who rock climbed in their personal lives and would feel comfortable with ropes and harnesses and this sort of thing. So that part of the casting process was definitely fun, and I think it helped the authenticity of the film, like the overall theme here. From my perspective, I wanted people to feel, even though with sci-fi elements, that it was a real world. Like this is a real world with real people, and to
Definitely.
do, you really had to present the rock climbing as being real, and we did.
Well, yeah. I mean, you can definitely see that. Like, where did you wind up filming at? Like, where was like the wall and everything at the?
Yeah, we film. I'm based in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we filmed almost all of this here in Clark County. We did film the second unit rock climbing shoot is on a place called
Mhm.
Liberty Bell in States. And yeah, it took a professional rock climbing team and a professional rock climbers and film crews a couple days to hike back there, and we camped out and did a whole bunch of shots, but they were really 1,000 feet in the air doing all that sort of stuff.
Oh my
So,
God, really?
oh yeah, basically I made two early on in pre-production, Rocco. I realized that I couldn't film this how I wanted with a traditional production crew. So I essentially made two movies at once. We made a straight rock climbing film with a professional rock climbing crew with professional rock climbers. And then we shot inside an LED volume stage and other, settings
Yeah.
with with our traditional cast and with a traditional film crew. And then we put the two together in post.
Oh wow. Okay. And in the film, like Sean basically wants to finish with his grandfather started, and he goes and on to this rock climbing venture with a group. It's a place that's been closed for a while. And why do you think like he was so like pushy to go to this place that was closed, and it's been closed for a reason?
Yeah, no, it's been closed for a reason because bad stuff happens to people who try to climb it. Um,
Exactly.
I think it's tough to say when you're writing a script and you're trying to develop characters, you want to get into their heads and try to provide them motivations, which are different than our own personal motivations, right? A lot of first-time screenwriters tend to write characters that are all the same because they're writing the same person because it's them
Mhm.
writing, right? So you need to try to create characters that are different from your own personality but have their own motivations. And for Sean, um, he's on the reluctant hero journey. He's having a crisis of confidence. His dad tries to talk him out of going for obvious
Uh,
reasons, and so there's a little bit there playing on him of like, he needs to get out from underneath his father's protective shadow, and go do this to prove it to himself that he can do it. Once he gets there, it's not like he wants to be a part of this, right? That's where the reluctant hero comes in, right? Like it's not like he
true.
wants to battle mysterious aliens on the top. He just wants to go get his confidence back on the rock climbing, maybe complete something that at the time he thought his grandfather did not complete, which
Hmm.
spoilers, right? So yeah, that's his main motivation is just the family aspect and kind of rejuvenation of his own psyche about him being an actually really good climber, because it doesn't matter what sport you're in, whether you're in football, baseball, whatever, we all see professional athletes go through slumps. We see them having confidence issues. I haven't hit a baseball in 4 games, maybe I suck now, right? And that happens to climbers too as well. And the psychological aspect is what we tied into the sound and how it gets into their minds. So he's not only battling his own fears and his own issues in his mind, he's battling an actual, entity trying to break into his mind.
Exactly, exactly. And how did you think of this force? Like, how did you come up with it and think of it and design it and everything?
So after I left Telluride, I became a roadie for bands and actually
Oh, wow.
toured on tour buses and like worked at the first Bonnaroo festival and did all sorts of stuff. So in my personal life, I'm very into music, into sound waves, that sort of thing. And I was driving back from Skywalker Ranch, who they had done, Lucasfilm had done the sound for my previous film. And I was driving through California back to Vegas, and it just sort of popped in my head like, well, what if we had a villain that existed as a sound wave? And one, I
Yes.
just thought that was cool because yeah, I don't know if anyone's really done that. And then two, the producer of me gets a hold of ideas like, oh, great, I don't have to cast an actor. I don't need VFX for this sort of thing, right? So it filled two different roles. One, I just thought it was a cool idea, and two, it allowed me to film this on this budget, right? I mean, if
Hmm.
I have $100 million, I can make a different kind of movie than if you have $2 million, of course.
True, true.
So yeah, it just kind of came out of what I thought was going to be cool, and then it just kind of worked itself into the production aspect.
Nice. And without giving a lot away about the film, of course, like, is there like a certain scene that you had the most fun shooting?
Well, the clip's out there so people can see it, but when Brad the climber, comes down acting like a spider, like totally climbing downwards on the wall, that was a fun day. The Christian Howard who plays that role is a stunt performer, and this goes back to our casting. So when all stunt performers secretly want to be actors, right?
Of
So
course.
like he put in his name and was like, oh, perfect. I need someone to do stunts. He's a stunt performer. He's also a rock climber and he can act. Perfect, right? So that scene was a lot of fun to shoot. Christina Kirkman's particular scene was fun to shoot. Um,
Hmm.
a lot of it was fun. I mean, I have a great time making movies. Making movies is the fun part. It's getting the money and then getting the money back is the hard part about movies, right? Actual making it is fun. So there's plenty of scenes that were fun to shoot, albeit challenging, of course. But I had a great time throughout the whole thing. Other than
Nice.
other than the SAG strike, we were shooting this in June and July of 2023. So we got shut
Oh,
when SAG-AFTRA went on strike. We got shut down for a few days, and that can be a killer for an independent production. I mean, for Marvel, that's just a couple days of their catering budget. Big deal.
yeah.
For us, $100,000 a day to be dark can
Ooh.
can kill a production, right? So that was kind of a nervy time, but SAG gave us an interim waiver, and we were only down for like 3 or 4 days. So that
Oh,
was
good.
that part wasn't fun.
No, no, I'm sure it wasn't.
And it's tough because I'm in the DGA, and it's like, we have solidarity between our unions and stuff like that. So I understood what was going on, and
Yeah.
you just got to work with it, right?
Oh, no, I know. You're absolutely right. And I guess the last question I'm going to ask is where could fans watch the film and also follow you and the film at?
The film has an Instagram account, The Sound Movie. We're also on TikTok on the same handle. Our YouTube channel is under Sadieland Productions, the production company, and there's all sorts of clips and the trailers on that. And the film comes out next Friday, June 27th, in theaters and on digital everywhere.
Awesome, buddy. Well, thank you so much for taking time and doing this.
Thanks so much, Rocco. I appreciate your time.
Definitely, man.